Okay, let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today into some really detailed source material. It's a real-life story, captivating, but also, honestly, pretty unsettling.
Absolutely. And our goal here is to take all this information we've got, this account, and really pull out the key insights. We want to help you understand exactly what happened and, well, why it matters.
Yeah, cut through the noise. And the story really centers on this relationship that started online. You've got Deborah Newel and John Meehan.
Right. And based on the facts in the source material, their meeting kicks off this really shocking and dangerous sequence of events. We're going to track how it all unfolded, looking at the timeline, digging into the details.
To understand how things got so dramatic in the end.
Exactly.
So let's start with Deborah Newel. What does the material tell us about her? She sounds like quite a figure.
Oh, definitely. The sources paint her as, successful, very sophisticated. She was 59 when this all began, ran her own construction company, Ambrosia.
Ambrosia, right. Built it herself over, 30 years?
Yeah, 30 plus years, high society type, fashionable. Apparently took really good care of herself. Things like Botox are mentioned, so she looked younger.
Okay, so professionally, she's got it together. Big time.
Professionally, yes.
Yeah.
But the account shows her personal life. Well, it had its share of challenges.
Yeah.
She was a widow, but she had also been married and divorced 4 times.
4 times, wow, okay.
And she had 4 kids. So, despite all that history, the material says she was still really hopeful about finding, lasting love.
And that hope led her to online dating, specifically for people over 50.
That's right. And there's this really crucial piece of background. The source highlights a family tragedy back in 1984.
Oh, yeah, this part stood out. Her sister, Cindy, was killed by her husband, Billy.
Right, and the detail that the source notes as unusual is that their mother, Irene, didn't press charges against Billy.
Which led to speculation, the material says, about their relationship. That's complex.
Very. And this event, it seems, left a huge mark on Deborah. Made her anxious, jumpy, and strongly against guns.
And that detail about guns, unfortunately, becomes really relevant later, doesn't it?
Tragically relevant. It points to this maybe deep-seated vulnerability, perhaps a difficulty in confronting threats, especially within the family, because of that trauma.
Okay, so that's Deborah's situation, and into this picture steps John Meehan, the man she meets online.
John Meehan, born 1958 according to the material, so he's 55 when they connect, from San Jose, California. Had 2 older sisters.
And his past. The source suggests it wasn't exactly straightforward.
Not at all. The material describes a troubled past right from the get-go. A problem child, influenced by his father, who's also described as a liar, a manipulator.
Like father, like son, potentially.
Seems that way.
Yeah.
The account lists these really disturbing early incidents. Faking an injury, jumping in front of a car for insurance money, planting glass and food for compensation.
Wow, at a young age.
Yeah. And involved with drugs, too, dealing cocaine young. So you see these patterns of deceit, of exploitation, starting really early.
That's a dark foundation.
Yeah.
But he did pursue education.
He did. Studied fine arts, then went to law school, University of Dayton. And it was there, the source says, his classmates nicknamed him Dirty John.
Dirty John, why that nickname?
Well, the material explains he got it for basically deceiving women. Often for money or just a place to stay because he apparently didn't have stable housing during law school.
So the pattern continues, exploiting women for his own benefit.
Exactly. But here's the thing. The account also emphasizes his charm. He was apparently quite good looking. 6'2", green eyes, dark hair, this really charming smile.
And good at persuasion, manipulation.
Incredibly skilled, according to the source, traits that, drew women in despite everything else. The material even mentions narcissistic traits, thinking he was superior.
That dangerous mix, right? Charisma covering up something much darker.
Precisely. So after law school, the material says he meets Tonia Sales. She's a nurse anesthetist, a CRNA.
Okay.
They get married in 1990. Now, John was 31, but he lied to Tonia. Told her he was 26.
Another lie right from the start of the marriage.
And he made up this whole story about why his family wasn't at the wedding, claimed they were poor drug addicts, just foundational lies.
Unbelievable. They had children together.
2 daughters. And then John decides he wants to become CRNA, like Tonia. And she actually helped him study. He did graduate, the source confirms.
But things weren't okay in the marriage.
No. Tonia started noticing changes. The account says he became moody, cold, quick to anger. And then the truth started coming out.
Ow.
About 10 years in, September 2000, Tonia calls John's mother Dolores. And his mom reveals his real age, his criminal history going way back.
Oh, wow. That must have been shattering for Tonya.
Absolutely. And a source says she also suspected he was using and dealing drugs. She searched his room.
And found something.
She found a lot, about 45 bottles of stolen hospital drugs, 6 different kinds, mostly powerful opioids like pethidine. The material really stresses how illegal this was.
Yeah, possessing those outside a hospital setting, that's serious.
Very serious. It pointed to abuse, diversion, probably both. So Tonya, she acted decisively, reported into the police and filed for divorce.
Which led to legal trouble for him.
His first major brush detailed in the material, yes. Detective Dennis Lucan investigated in 2002, confirmed the stolen drugs. And alarmingly, the source adds, co-workers reported John carrying a gun in the operating room.
In the OR? Seriously?
If true, that's just incredible brazenness. So John fled. The account says he was found unconscious later in a hotel in Michigan, likely an overdose, they suspected.
And he tried to escape again.
Even tried to run from the ambulance, but they caught him again.
So finally some consequences.
It seemed like it. June 2002, he lost his nursing license, convicted of stealing drugs, obstructing police, sentenced to 6 years in Michigan prison.
6 years, okay.
But here's a twist the source highlights. He was released after just 17 months in 2004.
17 months out of 6 years. How?
Material basically puts it down to his manipulative skills. Suggests he charmed or conned his way into serving minimal time.
Unbelievable. And did prison change him?
Not according to the account. After getting out, the pattern just continued. Preying on women for money, living off them. The source mentions him stalking an heiress in 2014, trying to get money, but she backed off.
And that timing, 2014, brings us right back to Deborah Newel joining that dating site.
Exactly. October 2014, she meets John Meehan online. And his profile, it sounded perfect. Claimed he was a doctor, divorced, 2 kids, Christian, wanted a long-term thing.
Everything she was looking for, essentially.
Right. The material notes how much this stood out from her previous dates. And his approach was apparently very attentive. Asked about her, her family, listened well, seemed warm.
So she felt a connection, felt he was special.
Immediately, yes. Their first date was at a steakhouse. And the source shows John just piling on the lies right away.
Like what?
Claimed he was a doctor just back from Iraq. Claimed 2 kids, 2 houses, Newport Beach, Palm Springs. None of it true.
But Deborah was buying it.
She was getting drawn in. He laid on the charm, the flattery. Told her she was the most beautiful woman, made his heart stop, eager to meet her kids, saying he was falling in love on the first date.
Wow, that's incredibly fast. Intense.
Totally overwhelming. But the source says, despite that, she was captivated. She even invited him back to her penthouse that same night.
Okay, and what happened there?
Well, the source describes them having drinks, and then John got physically aggressive, grabbing her, rubbing her.
Whoa.
Deborah wasn't ready for that, asked him to leave. And she apparently thought, okay, that's it. He'll vanish like other online dates.
But he didn't.
No. He called the next morning, apologized profusely, blamed being drunk, asked for another chance to get to know her properly.
And Deborah's reaction?
She was relieved, actually impressed, he called. Saw it as him being a gentleman, not just after sex. The source says she texted him he was special.
And his reply?
Chilling, in hindsight. He replied he was the best thing that had ever happened to her.
Oof. And things moved fast after that.
Terrifyingly fast. Within 2 weeks, John told her he loved her, wanted to marry her, and the source indicates Deborah just got swept up, believed she'd found the one, blinded by it all, seemingly missing huge warning signs. Yeah, the material really shows how that deep emotional need can just override everything else when someone's good at manipulation.
But the red flag started waving pretty quickly for her family, right? Like the scrubs.
Oh yeah, the scrubs.
Yeah.
The source highlights this as a really peculiar thing. He wore them constantly, on dates, outings, even like formal events. A gala is mentioned.
His explanation?
Claimed it showed he was a doctor, made her look good, and incredibly, the source says Deborah accepted it.
Wow. Okay. And he moved in quickly.
Very quickly, into her penthouse.
Yeah.
And that's when her daughter Jacqueline, who's 24 and living there, really sounded the alarm.
What did Jacqueline think?
The source says she distrusted him immediately, found him strange, described him as homeless looking, questioned the scrubs, noticed him casing the joint, basically.
Pacing the joint, like looking at things.
Yeah, looking closely at the furniture, Deborah's extensive designer bags, Gucci, Cartier, and even asked about her safe. Jacqueline just had this gut feeling he was dangerous, begged Deborah to kick him out.
But Deborah didn't listen.
No, the material says she brushed it off. Thought Jacqueline was just being difficult, like she'd been with other boyfriends. And John, sensing that opposition from Jacqueline, he started working on Deborah.
How so?
Suggested they move out, get their own place. And Deborah agreed. They rented this expensive house on Balboa Island.
Expensive like?
Like $6,500 a month, $80,000 a year, which Deborah paid up front for the year. John paid nothing.
His excuse.
Claimed tax problems. Said he needed to send money to his kids. Likely lies, the source indicates.
But Deborah was okay with footing the bill.
The source describes her as being perfectly happy with it. She felt John treated her like a queen. Made breakfast, coffee, drove her car, did groceries, carried her bag. She felt she'd hit the jackpot. Couldn't understand why her kids didn't like him.
The source adds he also claimed his nice clothes were stolen in Iraq, so she bought him new designer stuff too.
Right, reinforcing that narrative of her caring for him. So Deborah wanted her family to see what she saw. She introduced him to her youngest daughter, Tara.
Tara lived in Vegas, right? Studying pet grooming.
That's her. Deborah apparently raved about John to Tara. But Tara, the source notes, was immediately skeptical. Questioned why someone supposedly so great was single and divorced.
Fair question. Did Tara meet him?
Yeah, she visited to help them move into the new house. And her impression. The source says she found him cold, disengaged, gave short answers.
And she noticed inconsistencies too, like Jacqueline did.
Big time. Claimed to be a doctor, but no car always used Deborah's. Claimed a house, but never went there, never introduced his kids. Didn't seem to work, just played PlayStation, which, the source points out, Deborah bought.
So Tara got suspicious.
Very. The material says she actually searched John's room, and she found his CRNA license. Crucially, not a medical doctor's license.
Oh, so she confronted him.
She did. And his response, according to the source, was another lie. He claimed he was a doctor because he had a PhD and advanced anesthesia training.
Which isn't the same thing at all, right? A CRNA is highly skilled, but it's not an MD or a clinical PhD qualifying him as a physician. That was his core lie about who he was professionally.
Exactly. And his reaction to Tara finding that out, pure fury.
What happened?
The source says he went ballistic, yelled at Tara, insulted her intensely right there in front of Deborah for searching his room.
And Deborah, did she defend Tara?
Apparently not. Tara felt totally abandoned, like Deborah sided with John. It was devastating for her.
This sounds like it created huge family tension.
Massive. It all came to a head at Thanksgiving. Tara and Jacqueline were there, their grandmother, Irene, too. John, very strategically, charmed Irene, talked religion, knew she was devout.
And Irene fell for it.
She was impressed, became a big supporter of the relationship, which just added to the conflict. Jacqueline, meanwhile, openly hated him. They argued. She called him a demon. The whole gathering just showed how divided the family was becoming, thanks to John.
So Deborah's caught in the middle. What did she do?
She went to her therapist.
Yeah.
And the source indicates the therapist advised her to, set boundaries with her adult kids and focus on John if she really loved him.
So that advice kind of pushed her further towards John.
It seems like it, given her emotional state. She distanced herself more from the family warnings, clung tighter to John. The material describes them traveling, dining out, even working together sometimes, looking like this close couple. John kept up the attentive act, making jokes. It just reinforced her view.
But Jacqueline didn't give up, did she?
Not a chance. Her suspicion was deep. The source says she did something pretty drastic. Put a tracker on Deborah's car, the one John always drove.
She tracked his movements. What did she find?
The data showed him making lots of stops every day. Brief visits to clinics, multiple times a day. Cafes, fast food joints, random places. It just didn't look like a normal work pattern at all, especially the quick clinic stops.
Yeah, that sounds fishy.
Then came this really bizarre incident, the source details. One Sunday, they get back from church.
Yeah.
There's a strange woman inside their house. Wet, long hair, wearing Deborah's robe, holding a Bible. Deborah, understandably freaked out.
I would too. What did John do?
His reaction was weirdly fast. He restrained the woman, told Deborah to call the cops. But when the police came, John handed her over, but insisted Deborah not press charges. Said she was probably homeless, mentally ill.
Okay, that's strange.
What makes it really suspicious, the source notes, is what John insisted on immediately after. Installing security cameras everywhere. In the house, Deborah's office. All controlled by his phone. For their safety.
So the suspicion is he staged the whole thing.
Many suspected that, yeah. Just to justify putting Deborah under surveillance.
Even with all this, Deborah herself started having some doubts creep in.
As they lived together longer, yeah. The source says she questioned his job more, especially when he'd bring home wads of cash.
His explanation for the cash.
Claimed it was uninsured patients paying cash. She also asked about the scars on his body.
Which he said were from.
Service in Iraq as a doctor. But the source notes, John was just so good at spinning these tales, he could often charm her doubts away, at least for a while.
And the kids, the rift just got wider.
Yeah, they felt unheard, pushed away.
Yeah.
And then Deborah's nephew, Chat, that's Cindy's son, who Deborah was close to, he started noticing things too. No car, no real job, playing video games. He got worried John was just after her money, isolating her.
Did something specific happen with Chat?
Yes, in February 2015, a moment that really solidified Chat's fears. The source says John flew into a rage when Chat just mentioned Jacqueline's name, yelled he wished he'd disappear.
Okay, scary. But what horrified Chat was Deborah's reaction.
She laughed. According to the source, she laughed it off. That moment showed Chat how deep the manipulation went. He decided he had to do something. He hired a private investigator.
Okay, finally. What did the PI find?
It was damning. The source details it. John was bankrupt. He was only a CRNA, no PhD, no advanced training like he claimed. History of addresses across different states, even lived in a trailer park. The PI tracked down a woman he lived with there who said he stole from her and vanished. And his name was all over Orange County court records.
So Chat told Deborah.
Immediately. Called her, laid it all out. Bankrupt, not a doctor, stole from women, criminal record, prison time. Warned her John was dangerous.
And Deborah's reaction this time?
Heartbreakingly, the source says she still didn't believe it. Accused Chat of slander, said she loved John anyway. The manipulation still held incredibly strong.
But something must have finally broken through.
It did. For Deborah herself. March 2015. A letter arrives for John. From a prisoner. Deborah opened it. The source says John reacted violently. Grabbed it, yelled she had no right to read his mail. Claimed it was research, interviewing prisoners.
That reaction.
That intense reaction, plus all the family warnings simmering. It finally broke through the denial. Deborah knew she had to find out the truth herself.
So she searched his room again.
Yes, while he was out. But this time, she was looking for answers. And the source says she found them. Documents confirming everything. Criminal record, prison papers, bankruptcy files from 2004, court cases about defrauding women, theft.
Just mountains of evidence.
But it got worse, much worse. The source says she found a hidden .38 Colt gun.
A gun. After her history with her sister.
Exactly. And then bottles and capsules of cyanide.
Cyanide, good God.
And documents indicating he'd made plans from prison to hire hitmen for $10,000 each to kill Detective Lucan, the one who investigated him, and witnesses who testified against him.
Hitmen. This is beyond just fraud now.
Way beyond. And the source mentions one more find. Printouts from a website, datingsitescritiques.com.
What was on them?
Warnings. Explicit warnings from other women about John Meehan, calling him a manipulative liar, a parasite, mentioning him choking a woman, begging others to stay away.
So, reading all that, the record, the bankruptcy, the fraud, the gun, the cyanide, the hitman plans, the other victims' warnings.
The source says Deborah finally understood. John wasn't just a con man. He was extremely dangerous, capable of serious violence, a threat to her and her entire family.
So what does she do? Realizing the danger she was in.
She acted fast. The source says she called her therapist for anxiety meds, and crucially, her lawyer, who told her, get out. Now, secretly. File for divorce.
Did her kids help?
They did. Helped her move out secretly. And while packing, Deborah found even more disturbing stuff. A list of contacts for hitmen. Another list of women's names from dating sites. Potential future targets, maybe?
Chillin', what happened when John found her gone?
He contacted her. Deborah told him, I know everything, I'm divorcing you. His reaction, pure rage, according to the source. Demanded half her assets, started threatening her and her daughters.
So she had to hide.
Her lawyer told her to. Change her appearance, move hotels nightly. John was actively trying to find her, sending awful, threatening messages.
But then, there was another twist. He changed tactics.
Yeah, June 2015. The source details this shift. He stopped threatening, started playing the victim, claimed he was in the hospital, back surgery, needed her, felt guilty, wanted to change, be better.
And Deborah?
Maybe pity, maybe guilt, maybe still a flicker of hope. She visited him. And the material says she believed him, believed his pleas for a fresh start. They moved into another apartment together in Irvine.
Oh no. How did her family react to that?
The source notes they were just heartbroken, saddened, distanced themselves even more. They just couldn't understand or support the decision.
And did John change this time?
Tragically, no. The source confirms it. A year and 3 months into the marriage, by March 2016, he was the same, if not worse, more controlling, forbade her from contacting her kids at all.
He tried to stop her seeing her children.
Completely. And the threats escalated again, massively. When Deborah tried to visit Jacqueline, John found out. And the source reports he threatened to throw Jacqueline into the ocean if Deborah saw her kids again. Sent vile texts to the daughters, too.
Threatening the kids, that had to be the final straw.
It was. That direct threat to her daughters. Deborah couldn't take it. She decided this time it was permanent. Planned another secret escape, withdrew a lot of her money, secured it.
Did she get away clean this time?
Almost. The source says John found the cash she withdrew, $30,000. Confronted her. But this time, Deborah stood up to him, said it was her money. She left, but he started following her.
Stalking her again. Where did she go?
John apparently thought she'd go to a house she had in Nevada and waited there. But she went to Jacqueline's apartment in Irvine, which had security cameras. John kept up the threats, though. Property damage, physical harm.
Did she try for a restraining order again?
She did. But the source notes, the court denied it again. Said he hadn't been aggressive yet and was in a different location. A frustrating failure of the system to protect her based on clear threats and history.
That's infuriating. And then things escalated further.
Dangerously so. June 11th, 2016. Deborah's car gets stolen from her office parking lot. Security footage shows John taking it.
He stole her car. What happened to it?
Found about a kilometer away, partially burned, arson, a clear, terrifying message. John was close and he was escalating. Deborah knew it, warned her daughters again.
This is incredibly tense, leading up to the final confrontation.
The climax happened August 20th, 2016, evening. Tara, the youngest daughter, gets back to her apartment in Irvine. She gets out of her car.
And John was there.
Lying in wait. The source recounts him running up, attacking her with a knife. Tara screamed. They struggled. He tried to force her into her car.
Oh my God.
But Tara fought back, fiercely. The source details that she bit his finger, kicked him, managed to kick the knife away.
She got the knife away from him.
Yes. And then she grabbed it herself. In the struggle, the account states Tara stabbed John 13 times. The final stab went into his right eye socket, into his brain.
13 times. Self-defense.
Absolutely. Witnesses saw it, helped Tara, called 911. Tara, in shock, called Deborah, told her she thought she'd kill her mom's boyfriend.
Was John dead at the scene?
Amazingly, no. The source notes he still had a pulse when the ambulance arrived, despite those horrific injuries. Tara had minor physical wounds, but the psychological trauma, as you can imagine, was immense. Months of therapy followed.
What did the police find there?
They found the knife, of course, but also John's bag. Inside it, passport and testosterone medication. The source indicates this suggested a plan. Kidnap Tara, maybe, then flee the country.
So what happened to John?
Hospitalized. Declared brain dead after 2 days. His sister Karen authorized withdrawing life support. He died 4 days after the attack. He was 57.
Any funeral?
No funeral, no burial, the source adds. His family apparently disliked him intensely.
And the aftermath for Deborah and her family?
Complex. Immense guilt for Deborah for bringing him into their lives, putting them in danger. But overwhelming relief, Tara survived. Tara's recovery, though, was long and hard.
How did Deborah move forward?
The source says she moved to Nevada, started a new company in 2017, Ambrosia Home. She actually spoke about it all at CrimeCon in 2019.
Did it change her views on dating? Or safety?
Completely swore off online dating, the material notes. Now lives near her kids and grandkids. And significantly, given her past aversion after her sister's death, she bought a gun for home defense and carries pepper spray now. A direct response to the trauma.
What a truly harrowing story. Laid out in the source material, it just shows the step-by-step process of how a manipulator works and the devastating impact.
It really does. And it absolutely hammers home the need for caution, for critical thinking, especially with online interactions. It shows how easily someone like John can exploit vulnerability, that desire for connection, with a totally fabricated persona.
Yeah, what this deep dive really exposes isn't just the shocking end, but the whole progression, doesn't it? How those small inconsistencies add up. How ignoring gut feelings or the warnings of people who love you
Can have such dire consequences. And how crucial it is to take red flags seriously, no matter how charming someone seems.
It's just such a stark reminder, isn't it, that real trust, it takes time. It needs consistent, verifiable actions. Vetting someone you meet online isn't paranoia.
It's essential self-preservation in this day and age. This account just powerfully shows the potential cost of not doing that.
So, thinking about everything we've covered from the source, what's the one aspect or lesson that really stands out most to you? What should someone take away from this about trust or recognizing manipulation?
For me, it's really about the isolation tactic John used. how he deliberately drove wedges between Deborah and her children. That weakened her support system, right? Made her more dependent on him, less likely to hear those warnings. It shows manipulation often isn't just about the target individual, but about cutting them off from others. It makes you ask, how do we spot when someone's trying to isolate us? And why is listening to our loved ones' concerns, even when it's hard, just so vital? That feels like a crucial lesson embedded in this really tragic account.